Okay, guys, it's time for problem number 2. I mean, you could do these in any order, but I think I had them set up so you do shell first. Hope so. Either way, you're getting what you need. All right, for this one, again, lots of instructions over here, but we already talked about that. It is important that you read the instructions and comprehend them. If you like to skim it first and then go back and read the whole thing, do whatever you want to do. It is important that you read the instructions. All right, so our first problem here is, and again, we would know that we are working on these in order, and this is a comment, right? Me telling you what to do. Assign these values to variables, and I've finished the first one for you. So this is value being set to 7, or the integer 7 is being assigned to the integer 7 is being assigned to the variable value, is what I was trying to say. And that's how we talk about variables, right? Right to left, something is being assigned to something. All right, so let's do this. This number is the meaning of life, in case you didn't know. This can be anything. We could say first name. This is definitely pi, okay. And last name, Jane. Okay. Now these variables have ridiculous names. Think about how to make better ones. So with this one, now if you've never seen these type of numbers before, I would be surprised, but I would also not blame you. It's not a big deal. But we want to take a look at this weird set of numbers here, this data, and see if we can figure out, like, what is this thing supposed to be? So right now it's X, but this looks a lot like a zip code. In fact, it's the zip code for Fern Creek High School. And this is my phone number, which you already have access to, so you can call me anytime or text me anytime if you need to. This is Tennyson's number, and that's my real number, so you have it if you need to contact me, okay? I mean, the worst thing you could do is you could prank call me, and I don't know, I might even get a kick out of it. So just, not at night when my children are sleeping. Pi, again. All right, and then this is obviously not a temperature. We'll say this is a first name. This is an address. This is not a small number. This is a large number. And this is a precise number. Now, I noticed many of you didn't change this one. This is definitely not precise, okay? Excuse me. This is a very precise number. Right? It's got all these decimal points, so it's exact, right? Like if your temperature was, or if the temperature outside, let's be more realistic, was 42.179154 degrees. Okay, that's a very exact temperature. So we want to say that that's a precise number. All right, now with this next one, you need to run the code first. So I say make sure to run the code. But what we're going to be doing is using the type function to determine the type of data inside the variable, okay? And I've asked you to use the type function on all these different variables right here, including the golden ratio, Euler's number, meaning of life, etc. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. I already did the first one for you. So we do type name. It tells us Quincy is a string. And we do type golden ratio. That's a float. And as you can guess, Euler's number will also be a float. And we just do this again and again until we have reached the end. Now, two interesting ones that are at the bottom. Fave cuisines. Oops. That's a list. So that's a different data type we haven't talked about yet, but we will soon. And the other one, music album. That's a pretty cool data type called a dictionary. But again, we haven't gotten there yet. Okay. The last challenge. Now, this stumped a lot of people. And that is totally normal. I remember the first time I saw this problem in college, I looked at it for at least an hour. Maybe, let's just say it was an hour because it took me quite a while to figure out what I needed to do. And that's because a lot of times when we are writing code, we forget about what's available to us, at least when we're beginners. The mark of a good programmer, especially a student programmer, is a programmer who can call on the fundamental techniques that they need at any time. And we talked about this in our very first lecture, that the fundamentals of computational thinking, selection, sequence, and iteration, these are the building blocks upon which all programs are built, and with them you can do anything with code. It's just remembering how they interact and operate in a program that is the challenge. So with this one, the challenge is to get Quincy, a string, into num without losing the data. So the traditional way of doing that, if we think about this, well, we can't just say this. So let's do a little experiment in the shell here. I like to use the shell when I'm experimenting. So we'll say num. Okay, so first of all, let's check these. Num, name. Okay, they have the data we expect. Let's do this. We'll say num is going to be name, right? That'll put name in num. Okay, so now num is Quincy. Perfect. And now we will put num in name. Great. So now I got num, that's Quincy, and I've got name that should be 8. But it's not. And why is that? Well, if we think about it, and this is really small, I'm sorry. If we think about it, when we said num name, oh, I gotta run it again. There we go. Fix it. If I store name into num, what happens to 8? If you think maybe it goes like on top of it or something? No, can't do that. A variable can only hold one thing, really. And when I say one thing, I mean one data object. It can hold some crazy stuff, but a variable ultimately only holds one thing. It's only got one spot for data. And so when I do this, I'm actually erasing 8. It's going away forever, and I've lost it. So I can't do that. So instead, well, where can I put the data in the meantime? And the answer to that is I can just create another variable. I could call it placeholder. I could call it x. But really, what I probably ought to call it is temp, because it's just going to be there temporarily. So I'll say that temp will hold num. So now num, the number 8, or integer 8, which is assigned to num, well, the integer 8, again, is labeled num. It's just going to be stored in temp. Okay, so now, at this point, 8 is in temp. Next, I'm going to say, all right, now that I've got 8 in a safe place, I can move Quincy to num. Okay? Oops, I can move there. I can move name to num is really what I want to do. And now that I've done that, I can make name temp. Now that is an effective swap. So when I run this code, I say num, I've got Quincy, I've got name, I've got 8. Now, some astute students and searchers and finders of the internet discover that in Python there's actually a really cool way to do this without all this extra variable stuff. And that's by doing this. We say num name is name num. And so we get num name. Just like that. That's what we call Pythonic. This is the Pythonic way. And we'll learn more about the Pythonic way over time. But either way, if you did this, that's great. If you looked at this and you thought, man, I don't get this, that's also okay. Hopefully you see it in this video and you're like, I got it. All right. That's all for this problem, and we'll move on to the next one, which is pretty straightforward.